Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into my official top 10 college football bowl season bets here. I'll probably be releasing another edition as we get closer to the games. I'm doing this a little bit later. Normally I release it, right away, but I wanted to see the opt-outs, and unfortunately there are a bunch of opt-outs. And listen, if you think I'm stalling right now, I do apologize. I'm waiting for the Wikipedia article to load up so I can, read off of it. And wow, Wikipedia did just release an article on all these games and the analysis. I'm wait. Can we please load, please? My computer's slow today, guys. I'm sorry. But here it is, guys. Starting at number 10, it is Toledo taking on Wyoming. Wyoming, 2.5-point favorites. Interesting game here with Toledo losing their quarterback, Daquan Finn. This is a team that made the MAC championship. They lost it to Miami of Ohio, and then they lost their quarterback. We'll have to see where he goes. He is a very good QB. Wyoming, on the other hand, they kind of had a strange season. If you remember, they beat Texas Tech in week 1. Kind of was streaky after that. I do like them. Originally, this line opening Toledo +1, even with their starting quarterback. I liked Wyoming to cover, but now I really like Wyoming. They're still only -2.5. That's a solid defense going up against a backup QB. For Toledo, I will take them to win that game. And then when you look at the ESPN analytics, you can see it says Toledo with a 54% chance. It's just going to have to be completely disregarded during the bowl season because it doesn't have the nuance to understand the opt-out situation when it comes to college football. So I will take Wyoming to win that game relatively easily, cover the 2.5-point spread. There, moving on to number 9, you got to feel bad for Miami. Miami gets thrown into the Pinstripe Bowl. They've had a bad year. They're 7-5. They're going to New York City in late December. They're going to freeze. I remember Miami like 5 or 6 years ago in this game. They scored like 3 points, I want to say. Rutgers, on the other hand, a very motivated team. I do see them winning this game and covering. I don't know if it's going to be 20-3. That might be a bit of an overreaction. I don't think Miami's going to have that many opt-outs just because their team wasn't very good. They don't have many, first-round draft-eligible players. They might have some because this is a completely meaningless game between like 2 7-5 teams. But this is in Rutgers' backyard. Miami is traveling. There's no motivation. When it comes to bowl games, a lot of it is based on motivation. Miami's had a bad season. Give me Rutgers plus the 2. And then the over-under for this game, this is another thing I wanted to talk about. The over-under sitting at 41. So I thought I was going to get good value if they would have put the over-under at like 47 or 48. I think they realized Miami doesn't want to be here. Let's put a low over-under. It's at 41. That's not great value. I mean, I'd still take the under, but 41 over-under in a college football game is no joke. I guess it depends on the weather. How cold is it? That's going to be very critical, and we really don't have a weather report yet for that game. We're so far out. Moving on to number 8, it is Arizona taking on Oklahoma. Arizona sitting -3. Look at the analytics on that. Oklahoma given a 76% chance to win. That's because they blew out a bunch of teams early in the year. The analytics are wonked, and also it can account for Dillon Gabriel still somehow having eligibility, being able to transfer, going to Oregon as a grad transfer. That's his 3rd team. You do have Oklahoma. It's next man up. It's Jackson Arnold. He's a 5-star. He's going to come in. But I still do like Arizona, who went from 3-point underdogs to 3-point favorites after the Dillon Gabriel news came out that he was leaving. Arizona facing a backup QB, Noah Fafita, that Jed Fish. That's a really nice looking offense and a team with a lot of momentum going into next year into a very watered down Big 12 conference when they make the move. I do like this Arizona team to win this game and cover the 3-point spread, even though the analytics are against it. You have Oklahoma starting a backup QB. They're a solid team, don't get me wrong. I've really liked Oklahoma this year, but in a spot like this, I will take Arizona, only sitting -3, dealing with the backup quarterback situation for Oklahoma. Moving on to number 7, it is the Sun Bowl. And it is Oregon State taking on Notre Dame. Notre Dame right now sitting, I believe they're -9.5. The line might have just changed this morning. They were -8.5. And this is a sad situation for Oregon State. They lose their head coach. They lose their starting quarterback. They lose their backup quarterback. And it seems like Notre Dame is going full-fledged try-hard in this bowl game. I haven't heard anything about Sam Hartman opting out, their running back opting out. No, actually, one of their defensive backs, who could be a first-round pick, said he was playing. So this is a Notre Dame team. They're very motivated to go to 10-3. The whole selection process for Notre Dame was very strange, if you guys remember. Like, there were 5 or 6 mid-tier bowls trying to choose. Well, I guess this is not a mid-tier bowl. It's an upper-tier bowl, but because they have 3 losses, they were not in a New Year's 6, and there were a bunch of different bowls trying to get Notre Dame because of their fan base. But they win this game easily, in my opinion. Oregon State, with their situation, you got to feel bad for them, but they just can't hang in a game like this with the amount of losses that they've suffered, both their starting QB and their backup QB. This game reminds me a lot of, I think, a game Oregon State benefited from last year where they hosted someone and they won like 30-0 because the other team had so many opt-outs. It just reminds me of a situation where the game's not going to be competitive because Oregon State has just lost too much. Moving on to number 6, it is Liberty taking on Oregon. So this is a New Year's 6 game. This is the Fiesta Bowl. This is the Group of 5 auto bid. Liberty coming in undefeated, but they had the worst schedule in all of FBS. 133 out of 133. Taking on Oregon. Oregon sitting minus 16 in this game, 90% chance to win, and it seems like Oregon is going full-fledged try-hard. Bo Nix is playing. They understand how important it is to have some momentum going into last year after the loss to Washington, when it looked like they were going to make the college football playoffs. So I will take Oregon very easily in this game, minus the 16. Liberty, to me, they probably shouldn't be here. There were scenarios where if Liberty went undefeated, they still wouldn't get this auto bid if Tulane would have won, and it's because of their terrible schedule. I know you guys will say, well, Liberty's undefeated. It's just such a horrible schedule. When you face a team like Oregon, I don't think it's going to be close, and I think it offers significant betting value on to Oregon personally. Moving on to number 5, it is Georgia taking on FSU in the Orange Bowl. You do have Georgia coming into this game minus 14. Now, there's 2 different angles you could look at this game. Number 1, you could say, well, FSU is going to want to play hard. They can try and go the UCF route and claim a national title if they win this game. Or you can say FSU is not going to try at all. They're going to say this is ridiculous, have a bunch of guys opt out, and make the game virtually meaningless. They're already they're not considering it, but people were saying they're boycotting it. I don't think they'll boycott it. I think they will probably indirectly boycott it by having all their top players out, like a Jared Verse. You've already have Johnny Wilson, possibly Keon Coleman as well, and we know Jordan Travis is not playing in this game. So I will take Georgia heavily in this one. When you look at Georgia, you could say, well, okay, Brock Bowers is not going to play, but Carson Beck will be back next year. Georgia is built off of depth on both offense and especially defense. This is not going to be a close game, in my opinion. I understand there could be motivation for FSU, but FSU, they're a team that, I thought Alabama should have been in over them, even though they did go undefeated because of how bad they looked with their backup QB. I will take Georgia minus the 14 in this one to win very easily. Moving on to number 4, it is the Hawaii Bowl. It's Coastal Carolina taking San Jose State. San Jose State surprisingly had a really good year, under the radar year, even though they did have 5 losses. They are sitting minus 9.5. Grayson McCall not going to be there for Coastal Carolina. And what's the one person you think of when it comes to Coastal Carolina football? It is Grayson McCall. So without him, even though he's kind of regressed recently, I will take San Jose State to easily win this game, cover the 9.5 point spread. They had a really under the radar year. They've got momentum right now, and I've got them crushing Coastal Carolina. Again, you're betting kind of based off of the backup QB situation, all of the opt-outs and such. Moving on to number 3, it is the Relinquished Bowl. It is Wisconsin taking on LSU. LSU sitting minus 10.5 in this one. As long as all of their stars play, and I think they will, including Jaden Daniels, who won the Heisman last night, he's going to want to put up more stats to add to his historic season. I mean, his stats are just crazy. They should, in my opinion, very easily cover this game. Wisconsin, they had a very disappointing year. They've been thrust into this bowl because the Big Ten had no depth outside of the top 3 teams, Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. There's just no depth to the conference. And another game I would say, I would take Tennessee to cover against Iowa, because Iowa just can't score. Tennessee's sitting minus 7.5. That's not one of my best bets right now, but I would take that. But yeah, LSU, as long as Malik Neighbors plays, Brian Thomas, although I don't know why Malik Neighbors would play, because he's in a similar situation to Marvin Harrison Jr., very likely going to be a top 10 pick. I know he said he wanted to set like a record or something, or someone was telling me that, so I don't know, maybe he will play, but LSU should blow out Wisconsin. There is some thought, though, maybe LSU loses some of their top guys to opt out for the draft. Either way, Wisconsin, not good enough this year on defense. On offense, really bad. I will take LSU easily. Moving on to number 2, it is the LA Bowl, UCLA taking on Boise State. I did hear that Boise State's QB entered the portal. The portal is just so ridiculous, man. Any smaller team is just going to have their quarterback poached, it seems. You do have UCLA trending a little bit, -2. It was a pick'em. Now it's gone to -2 because of the quarterback entering the portal. I'm still taking Boise State, and this is a bit of a risk because we don't know the backup QB situation. But to me, Boise State, they've played so well towards the end of the year. They fired their head coach. They end up making their interim their main, their official head coach by hiring him because they end up winning 5 straight games, winning the Mountain West, destroying UNLV. I will take them to cover the 2, even with the quarterback situation. I guess the argument for UCLA is, like, the fact that Dante Moore entered the portal is bad for their future, but in terms of their present, it really doesn't affect much. Dante Moore was not an effective quarterback this year. He was a true freshman, but they actually had quarterbacks that were more efficient and effective than Dante Moore, but I will take Boise State. Although it is a risk, you're dealing with backup quarterbacks, that could be a problem. And then moving on to number 1, it is Auburn taking on Maryland. And I don't know, I just love the over for this game. Am I missing something? 49 seems like a low number. Auburn, I guess you could say they don't have the best offense. Maryland is hit or miss, but it just seems like a fun, higher scoring game late in the bowl season. The Music City Bowl, 31-30. It always seems like the Music City Bowl is a little bit high scoring to me. It's weird that this has the exact same over-under as the Ole Miss Penn State game, when I expect that game to have a lot less scoring. I just feel like this is good value, the over 49 in Auburn, Maryland. And I do also have Maryland winning this game, kind of in a maybe a walk-off field goal or something, covering the 2.5-point spread, because they are 2.5-point underdogs. But either way, that is going to do it for this video, guys. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.